With AI writing most of our code these days and replacing software engineers left, right, and center, the question is, do we DevOps engineers still need to know how to code? And if you want to land a DevOps job, should you still even bother learning how to code? In this video, I'm going to answer this question and give you my full reflections on this. My name is Misha van den Berg. I'm a senior DevOps engineer, and I make my living as a professional DevOps career coach. I've coached over 1,000 people into DevOps jobs, and every week I host multiple coaching calls with people to help them into these jobs. And one of the most common questions I get is people asking me, do I still need to learn how to code if I want to have a DevOps, Kubernetes, or infrastructure engineering job? So you, who have probably watched a few of my videos, are also thinking about the same question. So the short answer is yes. I firmly believe that any DevOps or infrastructure engineer who is interested in working with Kubernetes and landing a six-figure tech job still needs to learn how to code by hand. And I'll explain you why. And some people describe DevOps engineers as system administrators who learned how to code. And that's because DevOps engineers, of course, are mainly concerned with automating software deployment. In the old days, when you had like pure operations teams to deploy a new application or a version of an application, this could even involve someone literally copying pasting files on a server and then bringing it live that way. That was, in many cases, how things were deployed. Now, DevOps engineers took these processes and automated them with a wide variety of tools. Nowadays, with any organization that has implemented DevOps, when a software engineer makes a change to the code base, then this is going to trigger an automatic process where the code is being tested and maybe even automatically deployed to staging environments. And we use tools like GitHub Actions or Jenkins, for that matter, for these tools. Another example is GitOps. When you're working with Kubernetes, you have code changes automatically being pulled into your clusters and deployed automatically. Now, the thing is, all of this works through code. So GitHub Actions pipelines need to be written in code, in YAML files. So DevOps engineers actually need to know how to code in order to write these YAML files properly. And yes, AI can help us with writing these files. But if you've ever worked with these CI/CD pipelines, you know that they're very often with very obscure error messages that can take hours to debug. And in order to have these debugging skills, you will need to have the hands-on experience of creating and writing these pipelines by hand. The second piece here is infrastructure as code. So if you work in any self-respecting environment that deploys to the cloud, you're going to be deploying this with tools like Terraform, Bicep, or Pulumi. And these tools take code and transform that to resources deployed into the cloud. Now, this has multiple advantages. For example, that you have your environment completely specified in a document, so you know exactly what's going on. And if it somehow gets destroyed or it goes down, you have a way of recreating that from the code. A second benefit of this is that when you make changes, you can have your team review these changes to verify that you're doing the right thing. So any well-designed cloud environment is going to use infrastructure as code tools. This requires you to have these coding skills. And writing infrastructure as code in Terraform or Bicep, it's not rocket science. It's fairly easy. But if you don't have the basic coding skills, knowing how to work with variables, functions, maybe a bit of object-oriented programming, if you don't train these skills and learn to do this by hand, you're going to struggle a lot if your only skill with this is just to ask ChatGPT, write a Bicep file to deploy an AKS cluster. You are almost always going to run into problems, in my experience. Just by virtue of needing to work with infrastructure as code already makes it worth it to learn how to code from scratch. Now, there's a second very important part of this argument that you don't want to miss. But before I get into that, I just want to share that I have created a free guide that's going to show you a ton of free resources that you can use to learn how to code, even if you are a sysadmin who wants to move towards DevOps and Kubernetes, or if you are completely fresh and you are changing career from, for example, nurse like I did into DevOps. I've created a free guide that you can get for free by following the link down below that's going to list everything that you need to know to learn how to code, complete with over 20 hours of free resources. You can find it in the description of this video. It's completely for free. check it out and enjoy it. So we've established that as a DevOps engineer, you're writing a ton of code, whether it's CI/CD pipelines, infrastructure as code, or writing Kubernetes manifests or custom operators. There's a lot of code to be written. And obviously, we can use AI to help us writing this code. So why do we still need to learn it? Well, here the key element here is that AI acts as an amplifier. Okay? You need to have some skills in order to be able to work with AI tools efficiently. Let me explain what I mean by that. Now, I'm not a software engineer by any means, but I love writing code. Over the course of my career, I've written thousands of lines of bash code for CI/CD pipelines. I've written custom CLI tools. I've written custom APIs that store and retrieve stuff from Postgres databases, and all sorts of custom tools that glue a few things together in production. And I've written all of these by hand. Now, these projects used to take days or weeks to complete. But today, I can write or rewrite most of these in an hour or so. And this is very hard for me to admit. But if I take the work that I did before that used to take days or weeks, I can literally do that in an hour now with AI. That's how powerful it is. But here's the key thing here. I can do that in an hour because I have that experience of writing these tools by hand. I know exactly what I want, I can specify what I need from the AI, and I can tell it when it is going in the wrong direction. But you cannot do that if you don't have the skills to prompt these AI models efficiently. If you don't know what you're building, and if you don't know where you can go wrong, you're also incapable of spotting where the AI is going wrong, if that makes sense. So you need to have built up this sense, this internal knowledge, and this practical understanding of writing code to know when the AI agent or the coding tool is going off in the wrong direction. If you've never built a custom API, then it's very likely that the LLM would use fast API. But if for some reason the LLM would start writing its own custom implementation and writing an API from scratch, it's much more efficient if you just say, use fast API to write this Python API. So if you don't have that experience, if you haven't done that before, you wouldn't know if it's using the wrong library or using the wrong tooling for this. So you need to have done this by hand to know where the AI will go wrong. And the second important thing here is that if the AI creates something, okay, and it works, and then 5 days later it's running in production and then it stops working, well, how are you going to fix it? If you have no coding skills at all, and your only way of approaching this problem is feeding the code back to AI and thinking, oh, this doesn't work, help me fix it, then you're going to be in a lot of trouble, okay? If you have a production system running something that you don't understand, then your company can lose a lot of money if that system suddenly goes down and you don't have the skills to actually fix it. And this you can only know if you have built up debugging skills. And to get debugging skills, I'm sorry, but there's no shortcut here. To get debugging skills where you're staring at your code and you have no idea why it's not working, and you try and eventually you come up with the solution. And you can only train this by doing it. Even though these AI tools are really good at it, if you have been using AI tools to the extent that I have, you know that sometimes they just go around in circles and circles and they are not able to actually spot the problem. It still needs a human to do that. So all of this to say, should you still learn how to code as a DevOps engineer? And the answer is a firm, complete yes. Do it, learn how to code, learn how to do it from scratch. And to help you with this, I've created a free guide that you can get by following the link in the description of this video. It will tell you which languages to learn, how to learn them, and also link to over 20 hours of free video content and tons of free resources that you can use how to learn to code, even if you're just doing this as a complete beginner. The link is down below in the description of this video. Check it out. It's completely for free. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.